Welcome to Obscura Science, where curiosity meets the unknown.
Imagine it's dawn. The year is 1561. You live in the imperial city of Nuremberg, Germany. It's a bustling center of trade and art. The first light of morning is creeping over the rooftops, and the city is beginning to stir. You walk outside into the cool April air, expecting another ordinary day. But this is not a normal sunrise. You look up toward the sun, and you stop. Your blood runs cold. Something is happening in the sky, something impossible. Dozens of objects are swarming around the sun. There are spheres or globes in shades of blood red, blue, and black. There are crosses, also glowing with a terrifying red light. And among them, you see two great pipes, or cylinders, huge dark tubes from which more spheres emerge, and they are fighting. This is the true account of what the people of Nuremberg witnessed on April 14th, 1561. It's a story that was documented at the time, and for nearly 500 years, it has remained one of the most bizarre and unsettling historical events ever recorded. What the citizens saw that morning was not a fleeting glimpse of something strange. It was a prolonged, terrifying spectacle. For about an hour, the sky above their city was a scene of chaos. The objects, the spheres and crosses, darted back and forth. They appeared to battle one another so vehemently that they grew tired. The account says they fought until they were exhausted. Imagine standing on the street, surrounded by your neighbors, all of you staring up in disbelief and terror. The air is filled with gasps and prayers. You are watching what looks like a war in the heavens. A war fought with weapons you cannot comprehend. Then, as suddenly as it began, the battle is over. The surviving objects, weakened from their fight, begin to fall. They descend from the sun and plummet to the earth outside the city, sending up a thick cloud of smoke. The people watch as the remnants of this celestial war seem to crash into the fields beyond the city walls. And then, one final, terrifying object appears. A long, thick shape, like a giant black spear pointing east. This sounds like a wild legend, a piece of folklore passed down through generations. But it's not. We know this happened because someone wrote it all down and published it. His name was Hans Glasser, and he was a printer and publisher in Nuremberg. Just days after the event, he created what we would now call a news report. It was printed on a single large sheet of paper called a broadsheet, and it included a detailed woodcut illustration showing the entire, unbelievable scene. This document still exists. It is a physical piece of evidence. It was the 16th century equivalent of breaking news, complete with a headline, a detailed article, and a dramatic picture. The text describes everything the townspeople saw: the time of day, the shapes and colors of the objects, the way they fought, the crash, the smoke. It was meant to inform the public about the dreadful apparition. So the question isn't if the people of Nuremberg saw something. The question is, what did they see? To the terrified people of the 16th century, the meaning was clear. This was a divine warning, a supernatural sign from God. Glaser's own text concludes that it was a call for the faithful to repent, lest God send down an even greater punishment. For them, this was not a question of science, but of faith and fear. But today, we have other ways of looking at the world, and modern investigators have proposed a number of theories. The most skeptical and scientific explanation points to the sky itself. It suggests the people of Nuremberg witnessed a series of complex atmospheric phenomena, things like sundogs, light pillars, and other effects caused by ice crystals high in the atmosphere. A sundog, or parhelion, can create bright spots of light on either side of the sun, which could be mistaken for spheres. Atmospheric conditions can also create halos and arcs, which might look like cylinders or crosses. The shimmering and movement of these light effects could be interpreted as a battle. And the final crash? Perhaps it was a completely unrelated event, like a meteorite that happened to fall at the same time, and people's frightened minds linked the two together. This explanation is plausible. It uses known science to explain a historical mystery. But does it really explain everything? The report is incredibly specific. It doesn't just say there were lights in the sky. It describes distinct shapes, spheres, crosses, and large cylinders that seem to act as motherships, releasing smaller globes. It describes them fighting for an hour, and it describes them falling to Earth. Atmospheric phenomena are usually fleeting and static. They don't typically engage in what looks like organized, hour-long combat before crashing. This is why, for some, the Nuremberg event is something else entirely. It's considered one of the first, best documented UFO sightings in history. Proponents of this theory argue that we should take the report at its word. The people saw exactly what they said they saw: a battle between unknown aerial craft. The shapes described, spheres and cylinders, are classic UFO types reported throughout modern history. The description of a battle, followed by disabled craft falling from the sky, is a narrative that feels strangely modern. Could it be that a town in 16th century Germany witnessed an actual conflict between extraterrestrial visitors? We are left with a fascinating puzzle. On one hand, we have the logical, scientific explanation of a rare but natural light show. On the other, we have a detailed eyewitness account, preserved for centuries, that describes something that sounds like science fiction. The broadsheet by Hans Glaser sits in a library today, a quiet testament to a day of terror and wonder. It is a message in a bottle from a world that was very different from our own, describing an event that we still cannot definitively explain. So what did they see in the sky that morning? A trick of the light and a fearful imagination? Or did the people of Nuremberg witness a battle that was not of this world? Nearly 500 years later, the sky above the city is quiet, but the story remains.
You've been watching Obscura Science. Subscribe now for more weird experiments and unsolved mysteries. Join our journey into the unknown.